Roman Wallace ran his calloused hand along the grain of black walnut, feeling every subtle variation in the wood's surface. 20 years of crafting custom furniture had given him an almost supernatural ability to read timber. If only people were as easy to understand as wood, he sometimes thought. Wood didn't lie. It didn't hide its flaws beneath a glossy finish. They were right there if you knew how to look. His workshop sat behind his house in Asheville, a converted barn that smelled of sawdust and linseed oil. He'd built his reputation piece by piece, literally, creating furniture that wealthy clients across 3 states paid premium prices for. His latest commission, a dining table for a hotel magnate in Charleston, had just been delivered ahead of schedule. The client was so impressed he'd closed the deal 2 days early, throwing in a bonus that would cover Danny's first year of college, still a decade away. Roman pulled into his driveway Wednesday afternoon, exhausted but satisfied. The trip had been good, productive, the kind that made him remember why he'd started this business in the first place. He grabbed his duffel bag from the truck bed and noticed Mrs. Chun from next door watering her roses. She gave him a strange look, something between surprise and concern, before quickly turning away. The front door was unlocked. Marissa must be home. He pushed it open and the smell hit him immediately. Bleach, strong enough to make his eyes water. Not the faint scent of normal cleaning, but the overwhelming chemical assault of someone who'd used half a bottle. Marissa? His voice echoed through the entry hall. She appeared from the kitchen, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing rubber gloves that came up to her elbows. Her face went pale when she saw him, and she actually stumbled backward a step. Roman, oh my God, you scared me. What were you doing home? Deal closed early. I texted you. He studied her face. She looked like she hadn't slept. What's with the smell? Deep cleaning. She peeled off the gloves too quickly, dropping one. You know how I get sometimes. Just wanted everything fresh. Roman had been married to Marissa for 10 years. He knew her cleaning habits like he knew his own workshop. She was tidy, sure, but this was something else. Where's Danny? At my mom's. I thought with you gone until Friday, it'd be easier to really scrub the place down without him underfoot. He nodded slowly, setting his bag down. Something felt wrong. The house was too quiet, and Marissa's hands were shaking. I'm gonna shower. Been driving since 5 this morning. Yeah, of course. I'll make coffee. Roman headed upstairs, but stopped at Danny's room. He pushed the door open. The bed was made with military precision, unusual for an 8-year-old's room. He walked to the closet, opened it. Danny's overnight bag was there. The one Marissa always packed when he stayed at Leona's house. His chest tightened. He went to his bedroom, closed the door, and pulled out his phone. Leona Donahue answered on the second ring. Roman, how's Charleston? Actually, I'm home. Quick question. Is Danny with you? Silence. Then, Danny? No, honey. Why would he be here on a school day? His mouth went dry. Marissa said she dropped him off. Said it'd be easier while she cleaned. I haven't seen Danny since Sunday dinner. Roman, what's going on? I don't know yet. Let me call you back. He hung up and forced himself to breathe. Think. Danny was somewhere. He had to be somewhere safe. Marissa wouldn't know. He pushed the thought away. Roman came downstairs slowly, his mind racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. Marissa was in the kitchen, gripping a coffee mug so hard her knuckles had gone white. I called your mom, he said quietly. She closed her eyes. Roman, where's my son? He's safe. He's at the Zimmermans. Sarah asked if he could stay over for a few days. Some kind of gaming tournament the kids planned. I needed some time alone, and I knew if I told you he was there instead of mom's, you'd think I was being a bad mother and... Stop! Roman held up his hand. The explanation came too fast, too practiced. I'm going to get him. Roman, please, just let him finish the week with his friend. He's having so much fun in... But Roman was already out the door. The Zimmermans confirmed Danny was there, safe and happy, beating some game Roman had never heard of. Roman told them he'd pick Danny up tomorrow, that something had come up but everything was fine. Sarah Zimmerman gave him the same look Mrs. Chun had, like she knew something he didn't. On the drive back, Roman's mind cataloged everything wrong. The bleach, the lie about Leona, Marissa's panic when he'd walked in, the neighbors' reactions. and Danny's overnight bag still in his closet. She'd planned for Roman to be gone until Friday. 2 more days. What was supposed to happen in 2 more days? He pulled into his driveway as the sun began its descent, painting the sky orange and pink. Beautiful evening. Wrong emotions for it. He sat in his truck for a moment, hands on the wheel, and that's when he noticed it. The backyard. He could see it from this angle, past the side of the house. A patch of dirt near the garden fence looked disturbed, darker than the surrounding soil. Recently turned. Roman got out slowly, walked around the house. The evening light hit the yard at just the right angle to show it clearly. A rectangular area, maybe 3 feet by 4 feet, where someone had dug and filled recently. Tried to tamp it down, but you couldn't hide it completely. Not from someone who'd worked with his hands his whole life. He went to the shed, grabbed a shovel. His heart hammered against his ribs, but his hands were steady. Steady like they'd always been. The back door flew open. Marissa ran out, still in her cleaning clothes. "Roman, what are you doing?" He pushed the shovel into the earth. It sank easily, loose soil. "Don't!" She was screaming now, stumbling across the lawn. "Please don't. Roman, stop." He kept digging. 1 shovelful. 2. 3. The soil was freshly turned, practically falling away. "I can explain. Just stop and I'll explain everything." 18 inches down, the shovel hit plastic. Roman's vision tunneled. His son's face flashed through his mind. "No, no, God, please no." He dropped to his knees and pulled the plastic up. Not a body. Bags. Multiple bags wrapped together. Marissa collapsed on the grass, sobbing. Roman carefully unwrapped the plastic with shaking hands. Inside, 3 prescription bottles, none in his name. A bundle of documents. A burner phone. And a small vial of clear liquid. He opened the first bottle. Digoxin. Heart medication. He didn't have heart problems. The documents were underneath, sealed in a Ziploc bag. He pulled them out, his hands now steady despite the adrenaline screaming through his system. A life insurance policy. His life insurance policy. But the death benefit amount made him blink. $2 million. He'd never signed anything for $2 million. The signature looked like his. Almost perfect. But Roman had signed thousands of documents for his business. He knew his own signature. This was close, but the loop in the W was wrong. "I'm sorry." Marissa's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry." Roman stood up, the evidence clutched in his hands. He looked at his wife. This woman he'd loved, built a life with, created a child with, and saw a stranger. "You were going to kill me." She didn't deny it, just kept crying. "How long?" His voice was eerily calm. "How long have you been planning this?" 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. Half a year of lying next to him, cooking his meals, kissing him goodbye, all while planning his murder. "I want you to go inside," Roman said quietly. "I want you to sit at the kitchen table. You don't call anyone. You don't leave. You don't touch your phone. Do you understand me?" She nodded, scrambling to her feet. "And Marissa, if you run, I promise you'll wish you hadn't." She fled into the house. Roman stood in his backyard, the evidence of his planned murder in his hands, and felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. Something that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with calculation. He took photos of everything with his phone. Then he carefully rewrapped it all, placed it back in the hole, and covered it with a thin layer of soil. He spread some leaves over the top, making it look undisturbed unless he knew where to look. Then Roman Wallace went inside to have a conversation with his wife. She sat at the kitchen table where he'd told her to, mascara running down her face. Roman poured himself a glass of water, drank it slowly, then sat across from her. "Tell me everything. And if you lie to me even once, I'll walk out this door and call the police." The story came out in broken pieces. The affair had started 8 months ago. Doug Lindsay. Roman knew him. They'd worked together on a few projects. Doug had done the electrical work when Roman renovated the workshop. They'd had beers together. Marissa had met Doug at the hardware store. Started talking. He'd been charming, attentive. Everything she felt Roman hadn't been lately. The affair had been going on for 2 months before Doug suggested they could be together. Really together. If Roman wasn't in the picture. It was Doug's idea, she said. All of it. The insurance, the poison, everything. You just went along with it. Roman's voice was flat. I love him. I know that sounds crazy, but When were you going to do it? She wiped her eyes. This weekend. When you got back. I was going to start putting the digoxin in your coffee. Just a little each day. Doug said within 2 weeks, you'd have a heart attack. It would look natural. And Danny, he'd stay with the Zimmermans. Or my mom. We couldn't let him see. She broke off. Roman stood up and walked to the window. Outside, his neighbors' houses looked warm and normal. Lives without murder plots. Without wives who'd been planning to poison you while smiling over the breakfast table. Did you take money from our accounts? Her silence was answer enough. How much? 80,000. Over the past 6 months. Doug needed it for expenses. Roman nodded slowly. The burner phone. That's how you two communicate. Yes. Password. 4732. Roman picked up the plastic-wrapped items, still on the counter where he'd set them. I'm taking these. You're going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow, you're going to do exactly what I tell you. Do you understand? Are you calling the police? He looked at her, really looked at her. This person who'd shared his bed, his life, his dreams, who'd been willing to end his life for money and another man. Not yet, he said. But Marissa, your life, as you know it, is over. The only question now is how much worse I make it. He walked out, taking the evidence with him. He'd sleep in his workshop tonight. Tomorrow, he'd figure out exactly how to destroy Doug Lindsay and everyone else who'd thought Roman Wallace would be an easy target. Roman spread everything across his workshop table under the harsh LED lights. The night was quiet except for the occasional car passing on the street. He'd texted Sarah Zimmerman to ask if Danny could stay through the weekend. Some work emergency had come up. She'd agreed immediately, probably sensing something serious in his tone. The burner phone was a goldmine. 6 months of messages between Marissa and Doug. Roman read them all, his jaw clenched tighter with each one. They were detailed about the plan. Disturbingly detailed. Doug, the digoxin is perfect. Mimics a heart attack. No one will question it, especially with his work stress. Marissa, what about Danny? Will he know something's wrong? Doug, kids that age don't notice. And once we have the insurance money, we'll take him somewhere nice. Disneyland or whatever. He'll forget about Roman soon enough. Roman had to stop reading for a moment. The casual way they discussed his son forgetting him. Like he was replaceable. A problem to be solved and moved past. He kept scrolling. Found something interesting about a month back. Doug, did you find the old policy paperwork? I need it for the comparison. Marissa, it's in his office. Why? Doug, I want to make sure my signature matches his on the new application. I've been practicing, but better to have a reference. So Doug had forged the insurance documents. Roman screenshotted everything, backing it up to 3 different cloud services. Then he started digging deeper into Doug Lindsay himself. An hour of internet searching painted a disturbing picture. Doug had been married before, 5 years ago. His wife, Rachel Lindsay, had died of sudden heart attack at age 32. No prior health problems. Doug had inherited her substantial family money. Her parents had owned a chain of hardware stores across North Carolina. Roman found Rachel's obituary. Then her parents' obituary from 2 years later. Both died in a house fire ruled accidental. Doug had been the sole beneficiary of their estates. But according to county records, Doug had burned through that money. Gambling debts. Bad investments. He lost everything within 3 years. And now he was working as a contractor, taking jobs where he could find them, desperate for another score. Roman was that score. He pulled up Doug's social media. Photos of the guy grinning at construction sites, posing with tools, playing the hard-working everyman. Comments from friends talking about what a great guy he was. How he'd help them with projects. Always reliable Doug. Roman felt sick. This wasn't just about an affair. Doug Lindsay was a predator. A killer who'd found a vulnerable woman. Marissa had been complaining about feeling neglected for months before this started and weaponized her unhappiness. The question was, what to do about it? Roman could go to the police right now. Hand over everything. Doug would go to prison for attempted murder, probably get investigated for his first wife's death. Marissa would face charges too. It would be clean, legal, and Roman would get full custody of Danny. But something in him resisted the simple solution. Maybe it was the rage simmering beneath his surface calm. Maybe it was the violation of knowing these two people had sat in his home, eaten his food, smiled at him while planning his death. Or maybe it was something darker, a need to see them suffer the way they'd planned to make him suffer. Roman Wallace was a careful man, a planner. He'd built his business from nothing because he knew how to think 3 steps ahead, how to anticipate problems before they arose. He was going to apply those same skills to destroying Doug Lindsay and Marissa. But he needed more information first. The next morning, Roman drove to Danny's school and withdrew him for a long weekend, citing a family emergency. Then he took his son to his brother's place 2 hours away. "Uncle Marcus, something's happened with Marissa," Roman said quietly while Danny played video games in the other room. "I can't explain everything yet, but I need Danny safe with you for a few days. Maybe a week." Marcus Wallace looked like a shorter, stockier version of Roman. He'd been a Marine, now worked security for a tech company. The brothers had always been close. She heard him. Marcus's voice went cold. "No, nothing like that. But I need him away from the house while I handle some things." Marcus studied his brother's face. "You look like you're about to do something stupid." "Not stupid. Calculated." Roman managed a grim smile. "Trust me, always. But Roman, whatever you're doing, don't lose yourself in it. That kid needs his dad." "I know. That's why I'm doing this." Roman drove back to Asheville. He called Marissa from the road, told her to meet him at a coffee shop downtown at 2. Neutral territory. Public place. She'd been terrified on the phone, which was good. He needed her scared. She was already there when he arrived, hunched over a cup of tea at a corner table. She looked like she'd aged 5 years overnight. Roman sat down without greeting her. "I read all the messages on the burner phone." She went even paler. "I know about Rachel Lindsay. Her parents. The money Doug inherited and lost. I know this is his pattern. You're not special, Marissa. You're just convenient. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference." Roman leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep acting normal with Doug. Tell him I suspect nothing. Tell him I'm leaving for another business trip next week, and that's when you'll do it." "What?" "Roman, I can't." "Yes, you can. Because if you don't, I'm going to the police today. I'll show them everything. The forged insurance documents, the poison, the messages. You'll go to prison, and you'll never see Danny again." Tears streamed down her face. "Please." "But," Roman continued, "if you help me, I might show some mercy. Not much. You don't deserve much. But I won't push for the maximum sentence. Do you understand?" She nodded miserably. "Doug is dangerous. He's killed before. He'll kill again. Maybe you're next after he gets the insurance money and realizes you're a liability." You thought about that. By the look on her face, she hadn't. "So you're going to help me make sure Doug Lindsay never hurts anyone again. And maybe, just maybe, you'll come out of this with something other than a life sentence. What do you want me to do?" Roman smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Tell me everything about Doug. Where he lives, who his friends are, what he does when he's not with you. I want to know his whole life. And then you're going to help me show him exactly what happens when you try to kill Roman Wallace." Over the next 3 days, Roman learned everything about Doug Lindsay. The man lived in a rented house on the east side of town, always behind on rent. He drank at Murphy's Pub most Friday nights. He was working on a renovation project for the Henderson family, a wealthy couple who'd just bought a vacation home in the mountains. That last piece was interesting. Roman knew the Hendersons casually. They bought a dining set from him 2 years ago. He made a call. "Richard, it's Roman Wallace. Listen, I heard Doug Lindsay is doing your renovation. How's that going?" Richard Henderson sighed. "Honestly, guy's good with his hands, but something feels off. Emily thinks he's overcharging us. And he's been asking weird questions about our primary residence, our assets. Makes me uncomfortable. Mind if I swing by the property? I'm thinking of hiring him for a project and wanted to see his work." "Sure, anytime. We're rarely there. I'll text you the gate code." Roman hung up with a plan forming. He'd spent 3 days gathering information, and now it was time to act. He called Marissa. "Tell Doug I'm leaving Monday for a week-long trip to Denver. Big commission. Tell him you're nervous about going through with it and need reassurance. He'll want to meet me." "Good. Saturday night. Tell him to come to the house after 10. I won't be there. Supposedly I'll be at a hotel near the airport for an early flight." "But Marissa?" I want you to wear a wire. A wire. Your phone. You're going to record everything he says. Everything. Do you understand? Yes. And Marissa? This is your one chance at redemption. Don't waste it. Saturday arrived. Roman set up his phone, recording in multiple spots around the house, hidden in places Marissa wouldn't think to check. Then he drove to a hotel parking lot 3 miles away and waited. At 10:15, his home security app showed Doug's truck pulling into the driveway. Roman watched through the security cameras he'd never told Marissa about, installed in the renovation 2 years ago. Doug and Marissa in the kitchen. He had his arms around her, kissing her neck. So he's really gone? Doug's voice came through clearly. Yeah, early flight Monday. This is it. This is our chance. You still have the stuff? In the garage, where we reburied it. Doug grinned. Smart. See? This is why we're perfect together. You think like me. Doug, I'm scared. What if something goes wrong? Nothing's going wrong, baby. I've done this before. It's foolproof. He pulled out a cigarette, lit it despite Marissa's house rules. 2 weeks from now, Roman has his heart attack. Tragic. Unexpected. Everyone feels sorry for you. Insurance pays out. We wait 6 months, year tops, then we're together publicly. Maybe we move somewhere warm. California. Take Danny to the beach. You really want to do that? With Danny. Doug shrugged. Kid's fine. Not mine, but whatever. Part of the package deal. Marissa's face on the camera showed something shifting. Roman saw it. The moment she realized she'd been played. That Doug didn't love her. Didn't love Danny. They were just means to an end. What happened to Rachel? Marissa asked quietly. Doug froze. What? Your first wife. What really happened? Heart attack. You know that. Did you help it along? The silence stretched. Then Doug laughed. It was a cold sound. Does it matter? She's gone. Her parents are gone. Their money's gone. That's the past. With a future. You killed her. I made things happen on my timeline instead of waiting around. There's a difference. Doug's voice hardened. Why are you asking me this now? You getting cold feet? No, I wanted to know. Well, now you know. Feel better. He crushed out his cigarette on the counter. Monday morning, you start with the digoxin. Small doses in his coffee. I'll come by Tuesday to check on things. Wednesday, Roman had heard enough. He stopped the recording, saved it to the cloud, and sent copies to 3 different email addresses. Then he made a phone call. Detective Morrison? This is Roman Wallace. I need to report a murder plot. Monday morning, Doug Lindsay was arrested at a traffic stop. The charges: attempted murder, insurance fraud, and suspicion of murder in the death of Rachel Lindsay. The evidence was overwhelming. The forged insurance documents with Doug's fingerprints. The poison purchased on a credit card he thought was untraceable. The recorded confession. Phone records showing thousands of messages to Marissa. And once they started digging, they found evidence that Rachel's death hadn't been natural at all. Doug's public defender told him to take a plea deal. He refused, convinced he could beat the charges. That confidence lasted until the prosecutor played the recording of Doug admitting to killing Rachel. The trial took 4 months. Roman testified. Marissa testified as part of her plea agreement. Doug's past caught up with him in ways he'd never imagined. Former girlfriends came forward, women who'd felt something was wrong but couldn't prove it. A pattern emerged of Doug targeting vulnerable women with money. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. 30 years to life. But Roman wasn't satisfied. Watching Doug get led away in handcuffs felt anticlimactic after everything. The man who'd planned to kill him would rot in prison. Yes, but that was too passive. Roman wanted Doug to understand exactly who he'd tried to destroy. So he wrote a letter. Had it delivered to Doug's cell. Dear Doug, you tried to kill a craftsman. Someone who builds things from nothing. Who sees patterns and connections most people miss. You thought I was just another Mark. Some oblivious husband who'd never see it coming. But here's what you didn't know. I grew up poor. My father taught me that if something's broken, you fix it. If someone tries to take from you, you take back twice as hard. I built my business with those principles. I raised my son with them. You took my wife, my peace, my sense of safety in my own home. So I took your freedom, your future, your life as you knew it. In prison, you'll have plenty of time to think about your mistakes. The biggest one was assuming I'd be easy prey. The second biggest was hurting my family. Every day you wake up in that cell, remember, Roman Wallace put you there. And unlike you, I did it without breaking a single law. Good luck with the next 3 decades. Regards, Roman. Marissa's trial was different. Her lawyer argued she'd been manipulated, that Doug was the mastermind. The prosecution, pushed by Roman's testimony, argued she'd been a willing participant who stole money and actively planned his murder. She got 15 years. With good behavior, maybe out in 10. Roman filed for divorce the day after her sentencing. The proceedings were simple. She had no grounds to contest anything. She got the house, the business, full custody of Danny, and every asset they'd shared. Roman sold the house 6 months later. Too many bad memories. He bought a property in the mountains, near Boone, with enough land for a bigger workshop. Danny seemed to thrive there. The change of scenery, the fresh start, the absence of questions from people who'd known about the trial. Uncle Marcus moved nearby, bought a cabin down the road. Between him and Roman, Danny had the support he needed. The boy knew his mother had done something bad, that she'd hurt his dad, but Roman kept the details age-appropriate. One day, when Danny was older, they'd have the full conversation. For now, Roman just focused on being present, being stable, being the father Danny deserved. The business grew. Word spread about Roman's work, and with it, carefully sanitized versions of his story, the man who'd survived his wife's murder plot. Some clients found it fascinating. Others just wanted beautiful furniture. Either way, orders rolled in. Roman hired 2 apprentices, teaching them the craft his father had taught him. The workshop became a place of creation again, not a refuge from pain. 2 years after the trial, Roman was finishing a dresser when his phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Wallace? This is Detective Sarah Chun with Charlotte PD. We got your name from the prosecutor in the Doug Lindsay case. Roman set down his chisel. What's this about? We've been investigating a cold case. Woman named Patricia Chun, no relation, died of an apparent heart attack 4 years ago. Her boyfriend at the time was Doug Lindsay. We found your letter in his effects and, well, it got us thinking. We pulled the autopsy report, had it reviewed. Traces of digoxin. Same MO. I'm not surprised. Neither are we. We're building a case. Might need you to testify about Lindsay's methods, his patterns. Would you be willing? Absolutely. 3 weeks later, Doug Lindsay was charged with first-degree murder in Patricia Chen's death. Then another woman came forward, then another. 5 cases total, spanning 7 years across 3 states. Roman testified at each trial. Helped the families get justice. Watched Doug's sentence extend from 30 years to life without parole, then to multiple life sentences stacked consecutively. By the end, Doug Lindsay would die in prison. There was no possibility of anything else. Roman returned home after the final trial to find Danny in the workshop, carefully sanding a piece of cherry wood. Is it over? Danny asked. He was 12 now, old enough to understand more. Yes, son. It's over. Good. Danny kept sanding, the motion steady and sure. Uncle Marcus says you're a hero, that you saved those women's families. I just told the truth. He also says you could have just called the cops right away, but you wanted to make sure Mom couldn't lie her way out of it. That you trapped them both. Roman smiled. Your uncle talks too much. He says I should be proud of you. That most people would have fallen apart, but you got stronger. Danny looked up. Are you? Stronger? Roman thought about it. The nightmares had faded. The anger had cooled into something more like determination. He'd learned he was capable of things he'd never imagined. Both the darkness of planning someone's downfall and the light of rebuilding a life from ashes. Yeah, he said. I think I am. We both are. Danny grinned and went back to his sanding. The afternoon sun slanted through the workshop windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air like tiny stars. Roman picked up his chisel and returned to his dresser. The wood grain revealed itself slowly under his careful work, beautiful and true. No deception, no lies, just the honest beauty of something made with skill and patience. Outside, the mountains rose against the sky. Inside, a father and son worked side by side, building something better than what came before. Doug Lindsay was locked in a concrete box, and Marissa was trapped in another. But Roman Wallace was free in every way that mattered. His son was safe. His business thrived. His conscience was clear. He'd taken something terrible and transformed it into justice. Not just for himself, but for 5 other families who'd lost someone to a predator. That night, after Danny went to bed, Roman stood on his porch and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, Doug Lindsay stared at a ceiling in his cell. Marissa counted days until possible parole. But Roman breathed mountain air, listened to his son's peaceful sleeping, and felt something like peace himself. He'd won, not by being the strongest or the most ruthless, but by being smarter, more patient, and willing to do what needed to be done. The ending wasn't pretty. There were no reconciliations or tearful reunions. Just a clean break from everything toxic, a fresh start built on truth instead of lies, and a future that belonged entirely to him and his son. Roman Wallace had stared into a backyard grave meant for his future and chose to dig deeper, to uncover not just one crime, but an entire pattern of evil. And in doing so, he'd saved lives he'd never met while building a better one for himself. That was enough. That was everything. He went inside, locked the door, and went to sleep in a house where no one was plotting his death, where his son slept safely, where tomorrow held promise instead of threat. The nightmare was over. The man who'd almost become a victim had become something else entirely, a survivor, a protector, and in his own way, exactly the kind of hero the world needed. Not the kind who wore capes or made speeches. The kind who simply refused to die when someone decided he should. Who turned the tables completely and walked away stronger than before. Roman Wallace had won, and everyone who'd bet against him had lost everything. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.